We be live. Hi everyone.
Hello.
Look, look in the live chat. People are predicting what we're gonna say. Hello. Um. Hello. Okay, so guys, everybody, right at the beginning, we're gonna tell everybody what we're about to do. Okay, so this is a Q&A. That means that we're gonna go through our Patreon questions. So every week, a day before the live stream, we on Patreon we post link to this current live stream a day ahead of time, and this post is only available to our patrons. The stream is available to everybody, but the post is available to only to our patrons. That way our patrons can ask their questions. You can see, like, this week we have a lot of questions. They ask their questions as a comment under this post. Link to our Patreon is in the description if you want to be a patron and ask your questions that way. And we'll basically answer all the Patreon questions. And after that, we go to the live chat and see if we have any time. But I think we're not going to have, well, we'll see. Okay. Um,
Well, we
also,
also do super chat questions.
well, I was going to get to that if you allow me to say
Oh.
right. Also, in the middle of the answering the Patreon questions, if we get any super chats, we'll answer the super chat questions as well. Oh, by the way, one thing else that I think we might start doing, actually, no, we will start doing next week, from next week, is that we will also allow members of the channel, members of the YouTube channel, to come up and ask their questions with audio and video, or just audio if they want to. Okay. So if you're a patron, that means you get to send your questions ahead of time and we answer them. And if you're a YouTube member, I'll post the link to our YouTube members only in the community tab, and you get to come up and ask your questions live on air from me. And because Susanna, I think like she's going to be a part with Susanna and the part where I bring members up, right? Which is going to be just me with the members, and you could just basically we could have an exchange, we could have an interaction with your question that way, right? How's that sound? I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I miss talk-
And
I miss talking to
Mario was
people.
saying
Yeah,
that being a patron also comes with sexy, sexy blasphemous art. And he's
right.
attesting, saying that this is the best benefit. So,
Best
guys,
benefit.
if you would like to see what this sexy art looks like uncensored, and if you want the special patron treatment, link in the description below to join our Patreon. And you can get all of this for as little as $1 a month. So, consider supporting our work, because we would not be able to do what we do without the support of our patrons. So, we're very grateful for all the support that we get.
Yeah. Well, somebody is like saying, well, Susanna is here as well. Don't just say hey, Armin. But thank you, Asal. Hi, Asal. Asal means honey in Persian.
Nice. Should we get into the questions?
Oh yes, let's get to the question.
Okay, so we have a lot of patron questions this month.
This week.
You're correct. Let's start with a question from D. This gets a little deep. D is asking, I have heard many apologists using the term infinite regress and claim it's not possible. What is your understanding of this concept? So, my understanding is that this is ultimately part of making an argument in favor of like primary cause or first mover kind of theological argument, saying that ultimately you can't have an infinite amount of preceding events. There has to be at some point a first event that is the initiator. People have the terms like turtles all the way down. I love that phrase to kind of explain it, because it's based off of like an indigenous story about the world is built off of the turtle's back. It's like, well, what is that turtle standing on? Well, another turtle. Well, what is that turtle standing on? Another turtle. So it's turtles all the way down. Like, that's kind of a visual, funny way of thinking about it that helps me understand it. What do you think, Armin?
Yeah, I think there's no reason why we can't have infinite regress. People just claim like, oh, we can't have infinite regress. I'm like, okay, why? And they have no answer. They have not. There's no answer to that. Especially when they answer the question, the solution to the infinite regress problem is with something infinite that that has like, how do you solve this problem of infinite regress with this mysterious thing that we have no explanation for, and it's like has infinite
But
power,
is in fact by definition beyond our comprehension.
beyond our comprehension.
How
It's
does that
like,
make more
oh,
sense?
great job! You answered a problem with something more mysterious than the problem itself. You made it more complicated. Like you didn't answer anything. You just made it
Well, and I
more.
think a big problem with the argument is like just because we don't know. So this is often in the context of discussing the Big Bang. Like just because we don't understand what happened. I mean, there is no such thing as before the Big Bang because that is the beginning of like space-time itself. But just because we don't know like what caused that to happen, that doesn't mean that we won't eventually. So in the meantime, it's kind of like a God of the gaps argument. That's my understanding of it. It's like, oh, because we don't understand or we don't know right now, it's God. You're like, is it? I don't know.
I'm surprised you're actually interested in some metaphysics, Susanna. I thought you were just mostly interested in like politics and stuff. This is interesting. I've never had these discussions with you before.
I mean,
So-
I can learn a little something.
okay. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. Oh yeah,
but
D is
he
also
saying,
saying, yeah.
why
Yeah.
is it impossible? I don't get it.
Yeah. I mean, okay, well, if they want to say like, oh, it's just impossible, just because it is, like, it's impossible. Like, okay, well, I'll play the same game. Infinite power and infinite wisdom is also impossible. Okay, I'm just gonna make a claim like that, right? Your solution to this whole infinite regress was this like God thing, and he has so many infinite attributes. And if you just want to say infinite regress is impossible, I'm just gonna you're just gonna make a claim without any explanation. I'm just going to say like, well, your infinite explanation is impossible. There you go. So I'm just going to respond to it the same way.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Gasian
Okay.
American is coming in with a $5 super chat. Thank you for the super chat, Gasian American. To clarify, he has the answer. He knows who the prime mover is.
Mhm.
Lord Wan Shi created the universe. Lord Ling Bao separated yin from yang and set the 5 phases into motion. All other fairy tales are false.
Okay.
Asian American, thank you for
I
enlightening
accept
us.
that answer. And thank you for the $5 super chat.
Yeah, because it was initiated in the form of a super chat, I will unquestionably accept this claim.
Exactly. That's how philosophy works.
Okay, so let's take a question from Secular Sakai next, asking, according to Pew Research Center, more than 70% of Czechs do not believe in God, and 1 in 4 definitely identify with the label of atheist in Czechia, or the Czech Republic. Could the Czech Republic in fact be the most atheist republic? And saying Sweden, Estonia, Japan, and France also have similarly high numbers.
No. Okay. A nation cannot be an atheist republic. Only the atheist republic, okay, can be an atheist republic. Okay, because every government, every political structure for a nation should stay out of the God question. Okay, we get to be an atheist republic because we are not a nation state. Okay, so we get to do that. We're a nonprofit. Okay, but as advocates for secularism, it's none of any government's business. They're not there to answer questions regarding metaphysics or the nature of, that's not what they're supposed to do. Okay, they need to stay out of it. They just need to create governments, and nations need to create an environment where the rest of us could have these discussions. Okay, but I don't know what you mean actually by an atheist republic. Okay, so yeah, so we are against a nation that is an atheist republic in the same way that we would be against a nation that is a Christian or an Islamic republic, because it's none of any. Yeah, exactly.
A Secular Sky asked a very interesting question on his Facebook, which was, out of all of these countries that have very high levels of atheists, which would you prefer to live in the most? All expenses paid. Czech Republic, Sweden, Estonia, Japan, or France?
I mean, I would rather live in a more in a country with more religious people, so I have some discussions with I would be, I would rather be able to live in a country where there are more religious people, so we could have some engagement. You know, I would
Mm.
rather live in Israel, where I could have access to all um, Abrahamic religions. Unfortunately, there's not much exposure to Hinduism, right? So yeah, Israel would be nice because it's also one of the few countries in the world where I could have a lot of exposure to the Muslim community without being that scared for my safety. You know what I mean? Like I would not like to go live in an Islamic country with my profile. But in Israel, I've been in Israel. I've been to mosques. I've been to many very Islamic areas, and I've felt very safe because of the high security situation in Israel. I feel like very easy to feel safe there while engaging with Muslims, right? So yeah,
Also, closer proximity to Mossad. Please hire you.
yes. No, but if I had to choose between these, I would choose Japan. Definitely Japan.
Mm.
Yeah,
I chose the
Japan all
Czech
the.
Republic because of Prague. Have you ever been to Prague? I think you would be obsessed with it because of all the history.
I think I've been there as a, you know, child, very early, but I don't remember much. We had
You should
some
go back.
interesting. Some people were like saying they need to any atheist republic needs to give us royalties for the brand recognition. Yes, exactly. No one can lay claim to atheist republic's brand. Exactly. Oh, we got a
Oh,
super chat.
Varun gave us a $2 super chat. Well, thank you, Varun, saying, no, Armin, you got to live in India.
I
Well,
would
we have been.
love to go to India and even live in India. Okay, I would love to, but obviously I can't because we have a whole bunch of police filing against both me and Susanna and court cases and a whole bunch of people who have promised to do us harm if we show up there. A really high number of people who have promised to show us
To
harm and
remove
to.
our heads from our bodies.
Yes, so India was like, actually it's very interesting because I was about to go to India before all of this happened. Like I was just about to plan a trip to India with Cosmic Skeptic, both to go to India, like a tour, okay? And just like this whole thing just basically ended that.
And our lawyers have officially advised us to never put ourselves under Indian jurisdiction. So that's unfortunate.
Yes.
Um, okay. This is a very interesting question from Gation American, especially because Armin here is Mr. Modernization. Okay. Gation American is asking, at what point does modernization become cultural genocide? For example, from the 50s through the 70s in Canada, they killed more than 20,000 Inuit sled dogs in an attempt to get the Inuit people to settle into towns.
Well, I mean, modernization could actually be genocide as well, like we have had in under Germany, right? Like that's part of that was also okay. So modernization is not like modernity. I mean, depends on what you mean by modernity, right? I mean, communism was part of modernity. Okay, um, we don't endorse everything that happened um, due to modernity. We just noticed that a lot of the things that happened because in through modernization were beneficial, right? And we just want to, we just want to defend those, like, and we okay. So for people who are against modernization for the sake of being against modernization, for the sake of conserving things, against that attitude, we defend modernization. Not that everything that happened through modernity has been good or has a net positive effect. We don't claim that, right? But if your entire but the average effect of modernization has been beneficial to the world, right? Like extremely to the side of beneficial. If you notice what has been the level, the lifestyle, the level of security, the level of prosperity that we have had in the past 100 years, even with the both of the world wars, right? And even with the Cold War, and even with all the wars that you add in the past 100 years, the past 100 years, including while you include the world wars, has been the most peaceful time in the history of mankind. It's unbelievable. With all the death and destruction from World War I and World War II, still the past 100 years has been the most peaceful in the history of humankind. Modernity has been really good to us, right? On average, right? So but we're not going to be dogmatically be like, oh, this is part of modernization, so it's good. No, no, no. But we defend modernity against the people who are just on the side of conserving things, on the side of conservatives who are just not for progress. They just want to be against modernity just because they're against change as a concept. Okay, so so to your answer, modernization could be cultural genocide, but it could also and has been actual genocide, not just even cultural genocide. It has been also genocide, right? So so we pick and choose, but based on what we like from modernization.
I think Mario had a response to this on the Patreon page, where actually now patrons are interacting with each other's questions, which is very interesting to see.
Nice.
Saying forced modernization is not something I support. Freedom-oriented people I support. Basically saying modernization paired with liberalism, meaning Enlightenment values, is the best pairing. What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, basically, what he's saying is that we can pick and choose. So modernization is basically changing and things becoming, modern, going from how things used to be done and going and doing it in a new way. But not just because something is a new way doesn't mean it's better, right? But we have to be open to change, though, because for things to get better, things need to change. But just because something changes, that doesn't mean it has improved, right? So we have to be open to change, but not endorse every change. So what Mario is saying is what I said. Like we are open, we are very welcoming to the concept of change and improving, but we're not going to endorse every form of change. And he's also like now selecting. He's being selective about what kind of changes he's endorsing. So that's what I agree with. Yeah.
Yeah, Engaging American is saying communist China banned foot binding, for example. So some people would maybe say that this is a form of cultural genocide because this was something that was part of the Chinese culture and it's been banned. And I think this is a really good point in that some traditions actually, you could argue that it is a form of cultural genocide, but they actually should be left behind. They should be left behind. Foot binding, or I remember I can't remember, maybe it was in Angola, I can't quite remember, but there was a tradition in an African country that the Belgians colonized, and obviously the Belgians were brutal colonizers, so let me not like whitewash anything, but they banned this one practice of you weave a basket onto a baby's head and it looks like the most painful process. Like these babies are screaming in pain because they're trying to get their head to be like more kind of pointy or like a certain kind of shape. And you watch the videos of this, in black and white, this black and white footage, and you're like, you know what? I don't support a lot of what the Belgians did, but this seems like a good thing that this was discouraged.
Right, but I don't think that's
American is the Congo. Thank you.
Right. I don't think that is called. I completely agree that some cultures just need to go. Okay, there are certain practices within cultures that just need to end. Okay. However, I don't think those. If you look at what culture, okay, so the definition of cultural genocide is, I'm looking up right now, is the systematic destruction of tradition, values, language, and other elements that make one group of people distinct from another, right? So I think like if you go and say like, oh, this culture is bad, this specific practice is bad, we're gonna say no to that. I don't think that's cultural genocide. I think cultural genocide is when when you try to completely erase the identity of an entire group of people. I think that's the definition of cultural genocide.
I agree, and the language component is one of the most important components of cultural genocide. It's really a central aspect of cultural genocide. I completely
also
agree.
By the way, I don't have any problem with the culture, an entire culture of people disappearing if it happens organically. You know what I mean? Like I don't think cultures are certain thing that we need to preserve, because if it goes away organically, that means people are just organically finding different ways to do things, and they're free to do free to do that. Right? I think cultural genocide is like when your identity of a group of people is trying to
Systematic.
be systematically being removed. That means that it's not just being erased because of the free will of the people who are choosing to do things differently.
Yeah,
So
I
if I'm
agree.
against against cultural genocide, it's not because I'm saying like, oh, cultures need to be preserved. Like I don't see any value in forcefully preserving cultures. Like if a culture just gets erased organically, that's completely fine. I'm against a top down approach of a government or any other group of people telling
Yeah.
people how
I
to
mean,
live.
various
Yeah,
cultures have just disappeared throughout history thousands and thousands of time. Like, it's
exactly.
not inherently
Yeah,
a bad thing. They might happen for various bad, complicated reasons like assimilation and survivability and all these things, but that's part of human history.
exactly.
Um, but yes, we're against systematic erasure 100%. Okay, let's take a question from Mario asking, do you think Ukraine actually has a shot at this? I'm assuming you mean success in the ongoing war. Additional aid has already been passed in several countries that will be delivered soon, and the Ukrainians seem to still be pushing back the Russian army.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
very complicated because I think even if there is a ceasefire, I honestly believe that Russia will try again. Maybe in a few years, maybe in a few decades. I think they will try again.
I don't know.
And for this
Yeah,
immediate conflict, what do you think, Armin?
okay, it depends on what you mean by having a shot. Having a shot at like not losing Kiev. It seems like they do very much, right? Um, but I mean, I'm not. But having a shot at what? Not losing the eastern part of Ukraine. That's more questionable, right? Like Donbas region and all of that. Like, could Putin take that? Um, I mean, it seems okay. So it seems like they might have a slight shot at being able to take that back, but not a very high chance. But the fact that they even have a chance is unbelievable because we didn't think they would have a chance. Like we would think, like I don't know, like a month ago, we would think that yeah, they're gonna lose that part for sure, right? But the fact that that is questionable right now is unbelievable. Like we're talking about Ukraine. It's a very poor country going against the second largest army in the world, and now we're questioning whether or not they are able to take back all of Ukraine except Crimea, maybe, right? So yeah, I mean they have a shot, a low shot, but the fact that that's even possible is amazing. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think what really complicates this situation is okay. So even if Russia does take portions of the country or all of the country, they still have to deal with the dynamic between being an occupier and local insurgents. And I saw somewhere that analysts have determined that for every insurgent, you need like 30 occupying soldiers. Well, the Ukrainians have millions of people, and they have proven themselves to be fierce. So I can only imagine the money that Russia would have to sink into Ukraine to sustain an occupying force there. Not to mention the fact that it's also complicated by the fact that these are neighboring countries, right? Whereas when the US goes in somewhere on the other side of the world, like they have to go home eventually to the other side of the world. But it kind of similar to Iran and Iraq, like those are neighbors. They have to continue to deal with each other. They have to continue to deal with the prospect of more interference indefinitely. Um, so that makes it quite complicated. Like even if Russia completely pulls out, like they're still in the same neighborhood. That
Yeah,
problem isn't going away altogether. And I firmly believe that they will try again.
but
And not
yeah,
only will
but
they try again, they'll push harder. I think they'll push into Moldova, Transnistria, maybe
yeah, but
Poland.
how could they? Like now Ukraine will be more ready. There are more countries united with Ukraine, and Russia will be weaker. Ukraine will be like the relative power is going to only shift more in favor of you. Like, even if they succeed in holding, okay, so a month ago we were saying that, okay, yeah, Putin is going to take over all of Ukraine, but this will be so devastating to them because it's going to be hard for them. It's going to be easy for them to take Ukraine, but it's going to be difficult for them to hold Ukraine, just like it was difficult for United States to hold. It was easy for them to take Afghanistan, but it was difficult for them to hold Afghanistan or
Exactly.
hold Iraq, right? But Russia can't even take Ukraine, let alone hold it. So let's say, okay, they come back a couple of years and they manage to take the things that they want to take. It's only going to make it worse for them. If they're successful, they're actually going to be more devastating to Russia than they're not. I mean, maybe maybe it was good. Okay, so it's bad for Putin, but it's good for Russia that they failed. It would be devastating if they succeeded. Holding it would have been very destructive to Russia. So
Yeah, that's what
yeah,
I
I
was
mean,
saying.
yeah, exactly. So I don't know.
It's all a
Imagine,
mess.
I mean, I wonder if like all of this makes, how eventually the Soviet Union fell. Part of it was like had to do with them trying to hold Afghanistan and not being able to
Mm-hmm.
do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now imagine if this makes this regime also. I'm not saying that will happen. Okay, I know it's very unlikely. Okay, but imagine if this regime also falls because of Ukraine, right? Then the narrative,
Damn.
like the David Goliath story, would be like Russia tried to take down Ukraine, but Russia, the superpower, Russia fell
Fell to its
because of
knees.
because of the little country that could, the little country that
Damn.
stood up. They're like-
Oh my
yeah.
god. Yeah.
Uh,
You know what, the situation in Ukraine for the Russian reminds me of, I think it's a World War II acronym. The acronym is FUBAR, which stands for effed up beyond all recognition.
hmm.
So like kind of what you're saying, like if they win, they lose. Like this whole situation is effed up beyond all recognition. Um uh Oh, Gossam is saying during the first days of the invasion, Armin wished on the Farsi channel, quote, I wish this will be Putin's Vietnam. It looks like his wish is coming true.
Yes, Qasem. Yeah, you remember that exactly. Oh, what happened? Susanna just got disconnected. Um. Okay. Yes, I did say that. So, oh, there we go. Susanna's back.
I'm back, sorry.
Okay.
Okay, let's go to the next patron question. And oh, this is interesting. So this is from Mario, and this is about the Chinese lockdown. It's getting a lot of media attention. Did you hear about the Chinese lockdown related to China's zero COVID policy? The video of Chinese people screaming really scared me, thinking what they're going through. How do you think this will affect the CCP? So, do you want to provide a little bit of background? Mario is talking about the videos coming out of Shanghai.
Well, I mean, you've been following that more with that. You want to give us?
Okay, I
Okay.
can't remember a lot of the details off the top of my head. In terms of like how expansive it is, how many provinces or cities it is affecting. What I know and what I'm the most familiar with is just how it's affecting Shanghai. So like all of Shanghai has just been, I believe, just on indefinite lockdown where no one is allowed to leave their house, not even for groceries. And at first they said it was going to be 5 days. So some people just only stocked up for 5 days. And then it just has just continued to be extended, and it's gotten really bad. The government tried to issue this online ration system so that people could have food delivered to them, but you're dealing with a city of millions, and or they don't seem to have the means to execute it, or their online systems just crash because people will wake up at the crack of dawn when you can put in the call for your rations in the morning, and within less than a second, like everything's already taken, everything's already gone. So people are not getting water because apparently you can't really have tap water there. You should have bottled water because otherwise it's not safe to drink. Like the basics, people just can't get food. There are elderly people who don't really use apps who can't get what they need. Just really strict, really, really strict lockdowns that people are saying, what we saw originally in Wuhan at the outbreak, it seemed like very intense, but this is on a whole different level. Oh my God, there's all these videos of if a baby tests positive, they take the children from the parents. So they're just all these videos. You haven't seen this? Oh my God, there are
No.
all these videos of just like whole floors of children, like multiple, like tons of children in like cribs, in a single crib, just like a whole floor of children, like not enough nurses, not even close. Kids are getting diaper rashes. There are reports that children are dying this way, separated from their parents. There's all this controversy because they're also killing animals. So what I've heard is that people, again, this is what I've heard from people who, can speak Chinese, and then I have to trust their interpretation of what's going on. So disclaimer. But they say that it's partially because they have bought into the government's propaganda surrounding how this disease works. And so they believe it can be transmitted by animals. They believe
Wait, be careful. YouTube is going to destroy us if we keep spreading.
Yes, these are not true. I'm explaining what other people believe.
Yeah, this is not our views, YouTube.
Okay. We are not making any claims of fact. Okay. But again, this is what I've heard, is that they believe that the animals carry COVID, so that if there is a household that is tested positive, they will kill the animals in that household because they think they can also transmit it. Or they say that they're doing this because the people living in that household will be in forced detention for a forced quarantine for a minimum of 2 weeks. And so those animals would die anyways. So there are videos of people who have little security cameras in their house, and they're watching in their apartment while these government, people who work for the government in some capacity come in, all in the full scrubs, and they're just like beating their animals to death in the background. There are tons of videos like this.
What?
Oh, yeah. And just taking their animals out in bags, like you can just hear, like there's just a street. I've seen videos of like a sidewalk, and there are all these plastic bags tied up on the sidewalk, and you can hear cats still alive, like in those bags. Most of them are dead. So there's a lot of really wild stuff going on, and it's causing a lot of media attention.
Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is partly because how dictators can't, dictatorship governments cannot need to maintain an image that they don't make mistakes. All right, this is a similarity between tyrants and godmen, right? Because their image, their branding, their authority comes from the fact that they cannot do anything wrong, right? They're infallible. They have that image of infallibility. So when they have such a ridiculous policy of zero COVID, right? I mean, it's insane. Like, everybody knows that is not attainable, right? Everybody knows that, like, that is not attainable. You can't get to zero. But because they committed to that, they cannot admit that they were wrong. just like the word of God cannot be changed because God cannot be wrong. Tyrannical governments, they can also not admit that, okay, this was a wrong policy. Just like the one child policy. Like, no, they don't, in China, they don't talk about the fact that the one child policy was like, everybody in China knows, like, okay, they used to tell us to have this many children, now they're like telling us to have this many children. So were you wrong back then? Like, nobody addresses that. Like, the government doesn't address, like, were we wrong? They don't come and like, oh, they don't admit that they made a mistake, right? Here also, they started with they know that this is wrong, but they cannot come out and be like, we were wrong, we're gonna do something else. They cannot do that. They cannot, like, we have. Yeah, so they have to commit to it, even though it's going to it's destroying them. They can see it's devastating. It's even bad for their image because videos are coming out of Shanghai and everybody like,
horrible,
oh my God,
for their economy too.
Horrible for the economy. But again, imagine how important their image and branding is, that they are taking. They know that this is the wrong way to go about, and they're taking all of this damage because the damage of admitting they were wrong to them is more significant. The damage of the like, oh, this was wrong, we're going to change course, that damage is more significant to them than all this economic damage that they're facing. So now they're trying to save face. Again, save face is the key term here because that's apparently the most important thing to them, is by redefining zero. You know,
What?
no, I mean they're trying to by zero we mean not like zero, nobody being infected. We mean like zero. I don't know. I don't remember exactly how they're defining it, but they were like, okay, let's change it. Just like this reminds me of Khamenei, the supreme leader in Iran. Okay, he came out and says we will not negotiate with the United States ever again. No way, no, like not at all. Okay, and that was very devastating for Iran, right? Because they need to negotiate with the United States to make this deal go through, and they had to reinterpret what Khamenei meant by saying we will not negotiate, because they can't say like, okay, we changed our. They cannot come and say we will not we changed our mind. They had to massage his words to come up with a reinterpretation of what he exactly said. Because just like the word of God, just like the Quran, you cannot say, well, Quran is wrong about this. You have to massage it to make it seem like, okay, it's actually saying something else. The part of the Quran that says you have to beat your wife, well, let's try to figure out how we can massage it so that it could mean something else. The words of Khamenei cannot be wrong in a similar way. Just like Khamenei, when he said we will not get any vaccines from United States or England, right? That was hundreds of thousands of people in Iran have died because of that single phrase that came out of Khamenei's mouth. But at halfway through all this pandemic, people realized that that's devastating to Iran, and they tried to decide, like, okay, how could we reinterpret what Khamenei said so we actually could bring vaccines to Iran? It's very similar. It's CCP, Khamenei, the Quran, religion, and tyrants have that similarity.
Yeah.
Yes,
By the way,
exactly.
guys, please like this video because we've said a lot of words that YouTube really, really hates, and it will help us grow the channel. Because we like to talk about important topics, but we get decimated by YouTube because of it. And YouTube, we are
Yes.
not we have made no claims about the effectiveness of any of these medications or any. Yes.
Well, we think they're very effective. No, I mean, I think
Yes.
vaccines are great. I mean, like, I do make a claim. I don't. I mean, I go with the standard.
because
I go with the
I'm
experts.
worried about
I accept
them misinterpreting what you said about what Khamenei said. So
no, that's not our view. That's Khamenei's view.
yes. Oh, man, we have a lot of great comments in regards to this segment. So, for example, Asian American is saying, I'm literally Shanghainese and speak it as a native dialect. My mom and my aunts are stuck and they have intermittent food deliveries. So this is in the field reporting. And part of the problem is that Shanghai has 24 million people. So imagine not letting 24 million people leave their house for any reason whatsoever. And now you are responsible for delivering the food for 24 million people. How the hell are you going to execute that? It's crazy. Because what they used to do for the lockdowns is you would be allowed to have maybe one or two designated people in your family be able to leave the house every few days to go get your food. So there wasn't but this is like full lockdown on a whole different level. Now the government has the responsibility of feeding 24 million people. Like it's a nightmare. And so Dee is talking about all their videos of people in all these high rises across Shanghai just opening their windows and screaming. And Dee is saying, I saw it as a release of frustration and anger, and then drones came by and told them to shut up and close their windows. I haven't seen the drones. I've heard about the drones. People are saying, oh yeah, the drones will come by and tell you like you don't need freedom and all that. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I've heard. And then Asian American is saying floods and disease. This is the sign that the CCP has forfeited the mandate of heaven. Time for the Chinese people to eat the rich.
Wait, you're right. This is like, these are clear signs that the rulers of China have lost the mandate of heaven. Guys, the mandate of heaven is serious business, okay, in China. Like, you can't just ignore that. Like, so I don't know. You can't get clearer sign. Like, shouldn't people, like, okay, so here's the thing. Historically, in China, people really just accept the rulers until they don't. Like like people are like, oh my god, why are they just like, I don't know. Again, you can't just look at history and think like everything is going to repeat itself, okay? But if history has anything to learn, like if you lose the mandate of heaven, you got to be careful. Like you might like at some, okay, so there's a breaking point at some point. Like a lot of people are surprised about how much oppression the Chinese people are willing to face. But 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 there is a limit. I think, like, we'll see. Okay, we'll see in the next 50 years or so, because at some point, as if if they give up, things are gonna break loose. Well, I don't know. I'm not gonna make any predictions, but we'll see.
So truth begets heresy is clarifying. So reportedly, the drones told them, quote, "Silence the voice of freedom in your soul. Do not sing." Can someone verify this?
What?
Someone
Like,
needs
this
to
is not
verify this.
real. This is not real life. This is like a bad novel of somebody who's like making the villains
Rip off Orwell.
cartoonishly. No, they're making the villains in the story too cartoonishly evil to be believable. Like, I can't believe this is real life.
Well, I mean, there are some regimes that really be like that.
Yeah, but
Asian American saying, if it's any consolation, the lockdowns have somewhat lowered energy prices around the world.
Oh, they nice.
And in regards to how they're now massaging the meaning of zero COVID, Asian American is saying they're calling it dynamic zero.
Exactly. That's what I think. That was the term I heard. Yeah. It's like this. We meant dynamic. Zero doesn't mean zero.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting to think about how when this regime puts forward a policy, there is no room for course correction. And like how dangerous that is. Like you're crippling your ability to adapt to changing situations, which is going to be devastating. One of the most important skills humans have as a species is our adaptive ability. So it's so interesting to just like purposefully cut that at the knees. And D, in regards to your statements about Khamenei's decrees, saying it was abrogated, Armin.
Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't massaged; it was just abrogated.
Abrogated, yeah, exactly.
Asian American. Clearly, you Abrahamics cannot grasp how deep the Chinese language is.
That's good. I like it. All right.
Okay, so next patron question is from Secular Sakai, saying, I recently donated several artifacts to a museum I frequent. Oh. If there was an international atheist museum, what exhibits would you both want to see in it? Also, would Atheist Republic ever consider starting the first modern atheist museum, perhaps if there was a small one or one that solely existed virtually? Well, straight off the bat, I'm going to let you know that setting up a brick and mortar museum does not sound attractive. That is a ton of overhead. Virtual seems a bit better.
Sounds like a target for attack. So I would just make statues of Callie. Statues of sexy Callie. Can we do that?
I think
we will make an idol of sexy Callie. But go on.
There was a period of American history, I think it was called like the Golden Age of Free Thought, which is like a lot of people don't know about, and I don't really know about that much myself. So it'd be really interesting to see exhibits about that period of American history where there'd be these public speakers who'd like go tour around the country, talk about atheism. And I think that was maybe during the 18th or 19th century. I'm not quite sure. I don't remember off the top of my head. I'm trying to think of what other things would be interesting to see in an atheist museum. Maybe there's that one guy who was, I mean, I don't know how much of this is historically accurate, but they say he was like the scribe for the Prophet Muhammad and he was the first apostate from Islam. Like, I don't know, maybe an exhibit about him or other forms of early apostasy in Islam. Like Ibn Waraq has a whole book called Leaving the Allah Delusion Behind, and it looks historically at people who have always been questioning Islam. So that'd be interesting. And I'd also like to see an exhibit about South Asian rationalists, because that would be fascinating to me as well. I have a really deep interest in South Asian rationalists, and how it often goes to hand in hand with questioning and throwing off casteism.
I think we should do, instead of a museum, we should do a gallery. Because the situation with the atheists is like, we don't have many physical items to be able to display. I mean, if you want physical items, we should do a museum dedicated to Enlightenment values, right? You could have like different letters or different statues of great Enlightenment thinkers in that. But like for example, the British Museum has a hall dedicated to the Enlightenment. In fact, Susanna, if we go to London, we should do, me and you, when we go to London, we should do maybe a video in the Enlightenment
Yeah,
Hall
that'd be
of the
so much
British Museum.
fun. Is it a
Yeah.
permanent exhibit? Awesome.
It's the best part of one of the best parts of the museum. But when it comes to atheism, I think we should do a gallery and pictures and stories of the victims. I think that should be, all the people who have lost their lives or their freedom or their security, pictures of them, of their families, of the crimes that were committed against them, just a gallery of their pictures and their happiest moments and the stories, right? Like people will walk by and see their pictures and read their stories. Maybe some of them would be not a picture, would be a video, or something like that. I think that would be nice. What do you think?
Rami is helping me out, saying his name is Abdullah ibn Abi al-Sar, the Quran scribe who apostatized. Thank you. Man, I love our live chat because I can just like toss out something. They're like, I know what it is. I got you. And Bread of Life gave us $10. Thank you for your weekly tithe, Bread of Life.
Thank you.
Saying, I want to see a lock of Armin's hair in that atheist museum.
Okay.
Just a single curly little lock.
Sure, we could do that.
You're like, yeah. Okay. Let's take another question from Gasian American, who asks, should cabinet positions be democratically elected by the people in a ranked choice ballot?
Oh, I don't know why.
Like cabinet positions in an executive administration.
I think like I used to think that. I used to think like, why do we elect the president? Why can't the people just elect, the minister of everything, right? Like that. That's what you mean, the minister of education, the minister of defense. That way people could specifically decide what policies they like for everything. Like, maybe like a president has a bad defense policy and a good education policy. And then you can't vote for each one of these separately. If you had to vote for like education minister separately from like, I don't know, defense minister, then you could be like, well, I like this guy's education policy and this guy's defense. I used to think that was a better method if people could do that. But then I met the people. I'm kidding. But the problem is that the system that we have has worked. I don't think like we should reinvent the wheel. I think like it's easy for us to do armchair analysis of thinking, just imagining, well, that will work better, obviously, because if I have to wait, I mean, are we talking about a country with a president or a prime minister? I don't know which one we're talking. I'm just referring to everything.
Gasian American is obviously an American and also frequently asks us about American democracy. So let's put in the context of a presidency.
All right, so like you want representative democracy, and you don't want. I think that it would be chaotic. Okay, so one of the issues with democracy is the fact that you going through this popularity contest every 4 years is a bit chaotic, and it gets in the way of being able to have long-term planning, right? Relative to countries that don't have dictatorships, they don't have to deal with all these campaigns and constantly wooing people who are might not that be informed with politics and stuff, like having to go through that cycle every 4 years, and every 4 years you lose the person that has made trade agreements with the rest of the world. Like for example, in the United States, Obama made like remove the JCPOA with Iran, but then you can't rely on that because then Trump came and got rid of it, and now Biden is trying to bring it back, but it's hard to bring it back because for example, Iran knows that the Islamic Republic of Iran knows that the next president might just remove it as easily, right? So there's some instability associated with democracy. However, we say that that instability is actually worth it, okay? Because all the benefits of democracy outweighs this cost, okay? But imagine if this cost increases if you have these sort of elections and campaigns and popularity contests for every single position. At some degree, we have to be like, this is a representative democracy. You choose the officials and then you let them pick who is the experts, right? Like it would get so much more messy. And again, just because something sounds like it would be better, this if you want to change things, you have to change it a lot more strategically and smaller, because this has worked. This whole concept of you know um, separating different branches, the government into three different branches, and the models that we have right now has been such a blessing to politics in the past 100 years or so, less or less, that has worked better than anything we have had before. Just fundamentally breaking it and make uh, it could be extremely risky. You can't mess with things like that, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. We
Yeah,
got a
it's
super chat.
tough. I think it could also cause a lot of internal conflict within a cabinet, because
Yes.
like political parties could be diametrically opposed. They could
Oh my
have
god.
competing agendas.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, that's a genius answer. That's the main problem. Okay, that's actually the major problem. The whole reason why you have like a head of the government and they come up with a cabinet is because you get them to work with each other, because they're part of the same. They're like, okay, like all of these different parts. Like, imagine if each one of them was like didn't need to do grandstanding and do virtue signaling to his voter base, and it like didn't have to work with the rest of them. It would be such a mess. You're creating an incentive structure that doesn't encourage cooperation, right? Because if
Cohesion.
this yeah, if you like select, okay, we selected this party, okay, or this presidency, they all have to work together to prove so that they could win again, right? But if they're all separate, they don't have to work together to win, right? Because they're all being elected separately. So it would cause such
They're
there's
way
no
more
cooperation.
self-interested. I mean,
That
politicians are
is
already self-interested, but
that Yeah, I mean that actually you're right. That is the main problem. I didn't think about that's the best answer. You're right. That's the main problem with it.
oh, we got a super chat question from No Name. Gave us 50 Swedish krona. Thank you. Saying, Susanna, how did you initially go about telling those close to you about your radical past, and how did you tackle your fear over rejection over your past? Well, No Name, you messaged me on Instagram and I messaged you back, but then when I messaged you back, it said that your account didn't exist anymore. I was like, "Oh man, like I had some good advice and resources for you. So, maybe try, or you can message me at Susanna at atheistrepublic.com. You can email me if you want. Anyways, how did I initially go about telling those about your radical past? Well, I did it in the most aggressive way possible, which is by going on a public platform first. So I would not recommend this for pretty much anyone. I went out guns blazing and did my first public appearance ever on the Secular Jihadists channel. So you can go check out that episode on Secular Jihadists YouTube channel. But how did I go about telling us about my radical past? It's For me, at this point, it's just kind of like a funny anecdote. So I think it's something like I'll talk about it on a first date or whatever that people just find very interesting or they're curious about. I think it might be a bit different for me because I was on the lefty side of things, and that's perceived like in general less threatening, even if you are like a very far lefty militant. It's just not seen as bad as far right militant, at least in my communities and my country. I mean, I also live in the Bay Area, which is one of the most lefty places in the country. So um how did I tackle my fear of a rejection over my past? um I actually haven't faced that much fear over rejection over my past itself. For me, it is actually comes more from facing rejection because of the criticisms that I now have because of my experience in far lefty communities. So when you're criticizing the left, people on the left take that very seriously. They will, cast you out, takfir you. Suddenly, I'm far right, like I'm, I'm alt right, all this stuff. When I'm actually still a liberal, like I'm still on the left. I just have some criticisms, and I want to talk about the worst impulses of the fringes, from a more well-informed place now. And some of my criticisms people perceive as me being like anti-progressive, when really I'm like, I actually think that some of these ideas or the way we're going about trying to execute these ideas are actually harming these progressive causes. A lot of people don't have a tolerance for that. I think what would help you, based on the message you sent me on Instagram, which I, won't get into publicly, but would be to find people of a similar group and experience as you. And I actually have some like resources and communities that might be able to help you with that. And someone who Armin and I both know, a mutual friend, comes from a similar ideological background as you. So maybe I could connect you two if you'd be interested in that. I could ask him if he would be willing to email you. And I think this person in particular might be a good person for you to interact with because his experience reflects yours a little bit more closely, and he's public about his experience now, and is one of the nicest, kindest people you'll meet. So I think it takes time, but you will learn that good people will celebrate you for what you have changed about yourself. Good people will be proud of you for what you've changed about yourself. People who are judgmental and reject you and close you out are not people who are interested in genuine change and the betterment of society. Because given your background, we should be celebrating you for what you've done. And I'm very firmly believe that. So I'd encourage you to email me at Susanna@atheistrepublic.com or, message me on Instagram again, because I'd really like to connect you to some of that stuff. Oh my goodness.
Give it another super chat.
Thank you for another super chat saying, Instagram slapped me with the ban, sent an appeal last week, no response, will send an email. Can't describe how much I appreciate it. Again, thank you. Oh, well, thank you. I don't know why they insta-banned you. You had nothing on your account, but yeah, feel free to reach out, and I hope I can connect you to some good stuff. Babak is here, Torun. Wait, Armin's been teaching me more Farsi. Would it be Babakima? No. Fuck. Oh, I swore.
Man. Wait, don't swear on the channel. Oh no.
Would it be Babakiman? Does that make sense? Babakiman?
Babakiman? No. That means you're Babak.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay. Qasim is here too.
Yes.
They
The
get pissed
Persian
off.
Empire is invading the English Channel. It's happening.
Okay.
Doru.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. I have too
Let's
much
go to the
fun
next.
with my really poor attempts at speaking Farsi.
Soon you will learn enough Persian to come on the Persian show. Oh, we got another super chat.
Inshallah, please. Ooh, another super chat. Secular Sakai gave us $2 and it's saying $5 to the GoFundMe. Thank you
Oh,
for
thank you.
donating to our GoFundMe for our legal fund because we need it right now. Saying mini question: coffee or tea? Okay, I am very much into coffee. Big coffee person. I also used to be the head of the tea club at my high school, so I'm also a tea nerd. I'm bougie on both. I'm very bougie on both.
I put coffee powder in my protein mix that I add on my air pop popcorn. But I put decaf coffee powder, right? So that's how I have coffee. I don't drink coffee or tea. I tried a couple of times to get on drinking green tea because I keep like seeing how much beneficial green tea is to you. So multiple times I try to add it as a habit to drink green tea, but I kept stopping. So, but yeah, green tea is really good for you.
Yeah, I'm addicted to caffeine, so I will take all of the above. Yes, please. Okay, let's take another question from Mario because he has a lot of questions. There was a very interesting one. Wait, where did it go? Oh wait, we answered that one. Okay. Shoot. We'll skip to this one. Okay. So between former IRGC general, head of the Quds Force, Qasem Soleimani, and head of ISIS, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, who do you think was the worst terrorist? I say this word because of YouTube being sensitive. You can see the full word right down there. By the way, I hope you agree that if Trump did one thing right, it was erasing these mofos from existence. Actually, Armin does support the assassination of Qasem Soleimani. You do agree that that is one of the best things that Trump did.
Yes, but I don't. Okay, that one I give Trump credit for. There's a few things that Trump did right, but I don't give much credit for him doing the Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. That was like people, like it wasn't okay. So it happened while Trump was in power, right? But people, intelligence operations and trying to find him was ongoing before Trump, and they were just that was just its own military, you know, infrastructure that is involved, separate for the office of presidency hunting him down. That was just happening independently. I don't think it had much to do with Trump ordering it or anything like that, right? The Qasem Soleimani assassination had, Trump was involved in, like, yeah, okay, do that. I don't know how much involved he was in the planning process, but he had to. It was his decision to go about doing it. So yeah, you could give credit for him to that for that. But that's the only, that's one of the few things. I guess you could also give Trump credit for the Abrahamic Accord. That's a good thing he did. What else? I give him credit for something. And most of the things that Trump did was horrible. Okay, the most devastating Trump had done. One of the most devastating things that Trump has done is pulling out the Paris, climate change deal. Talks. Also support increasing the support for Saudi Arabia with their war in Yemen. That's one of the most devastating things that Trump has done. But yeah, I think there was a third thing that I said Trump did okay. But these are the two that I remember: the Abrahamic Accord, and also this. So the question is, between Qasem Soleimani and Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, who do you think was the worst terrorist? I mean, it has to be al-Baghdadi. I mean, I guess, like, if I say Qasem Soleimani, it would be because I'm biased as an Iranian and being exposed more to noticing and seeing the devastation that people like Qasem Soleimani are responsible for. But if you want to be honest, it's not even comparable. Al Baghdadi, like, broke the planet for a while. You know what I mean? Like, the whole institution that was ISIS was like, it just, it came and went. It was like a Mongol empire. It just like broke everything. It broke Europe. It broke politics around the world. It changed elections. It's responsible for, I don't, it could be responsible for Trump coming into power. It brought far right leaning politicians and parties became popular across Europe. Economies were, Brexit. It's responsible for Brexit. So I don't know if Marine Le Pen wins in France. It's responsible for that. And if that happens, then Europe could break apart. European Union could like be damaged. I mean, we're still experiencing the devastation from like, it's endless. It's like, I can't even imagine if we want to keep adding all the costs associated with Baghdadi. It's like, unbelievably, the effects are unbelievable. So yeah, that's my answer. What do you think?
Yeah, I think they're very different in their own ways, especially considering that Qasem Soleimani was like, you know, a part of a government, like a government official. He had different abilities and power to execute different things. Um, the it really depends on how you quantify worst. In terms of like sheer brutality, is it in terms of people killed? Is it in terms of how they were killed? Is it in terms of how many lives generally affected? Is it in terms of methods? Is it in terms of cumulative global impact? There's so many different ways you can answer that question. It's tough. It's tough. So
Okay, I see. Wait, let me just PK. I see you're asking a question about Susanna. Please don't ask questions about where we are. Okay, like, I see the Susanna question. Please do not like ask personal questions about anything. Because it's not good.
employment.
Okay, employment, our family members, our locations. These are things that we don't want to talk about on the stream. Okay, thank you.
Oh, by the way, can you check the private chat?
Yeah.
While I pull up the next question. Okay, here's an interesting question from Secular Sakai. What are your thoughts on religious atheists, for example, atheo-pagans, Levian atheistic Satanists, and non-theistic Buddhists who participate seriously in religious activities, but understand the effects of religion on emotions and thought patterns to be psychological or psychosomatic instead of supernatural? Are they preserving cultural traditions or perpetuating irrational practices? This is a very interesting, tough question. I think some Satanists have very interesting ways about which they answer these questions, where, yeah, they talk about it almost seems like they're trying to tap into some sort of placebo effect or maybe some Freudian, Jungian, tapping into the like subconscious or unconscious power of symbolism. I remember hearing someone on the Atheist Experience like call in and talk about this, and frankly, it made little to no sense to me. Armin, what do you think?
I actually encourage this. Because the problem with religion is not the traditions. The problem, I mean, the harmless parts of the traditions. The problem with religion is the belief, right? We want to encourage people to have um, belief beliefs that are closer to reality. Okay, I am against reforming religion, but I am very much in favor of secularizing religion. Okay, the difference being, reforming religion means that you keep the beliefs, but you keep the belief in God. You encourage and you endorse methodologies in coming at truth such as revelation, faith, right, and superstition, but you try to give it another like moderate look, as a way to make religion last longer as a defense mechanism, and that's very damaging, right? The conclusions of the methodology that religion uses is not necessarily the only problem. It's not even the main problem. The endorsement of the methodology that results in such problems is actually the main problem, right? So we don't want to reform religion, because even if religion comes with better conclusions that we like, those better conclusions are actually very harmful, because they're endorsing a methodology that could be extremely harmful to society, right? So reforming religion is not a good idea. But secularizing religion I think it's a very good idea. So unlike reform, which keeps the harmful beliefs and methodology, but changes some of the practices, secularization gets rid of the beliefs and keeps some of the harmless tradition where people who are people emotionally enjoy or see it as part of their community, or they have a sense of some attachment to it, right? Because if you do that, you're defanging religion. You're basically suggesting that you could, if we can encourage more people to become atheists. Because if the reason a lot of people are not losing their faith in religion is because they have emotionally like these traditions, or emotionally like these communities, then we can say, we could show to them by secularizing these practices is that you could maintain these traditions or these communities, and give up the belief. You could lose your faith in God and still do these games. So you could still play these games, and I think that would make more atheists, because a lot of people think like giving up on the religion means that they can't do these things. And if we communicate to people, you can still play these games after you lose your faith in God, I think will encourage a lot more atheism, right? This is basically how Christmas came about, right? Christmas has become very secularized, even though it originates from Christianity. A lot of people who are celebrating Christmas and participating in its activities do not necessarily believe in the myth, the mythology behind it, and so secularizing these practices, I think, is something that I very much encourage. What do you think? Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I agree. I just get a little sketched out by the way some people talk about these practices, as if like the ritual itself does have some power, even if it's not supernatural or outside of our material experience, that it's like psychological. And there are ways in which I agree, yes, but the way in which I've seen people talk about it, which may not be comprehensive in terms of how people who participate in these things in general actually believe or experience it, kind of sketches me out. Like sometimes I hear them talk about it in a way where I'm like, that also seems like an unfalsifiable claim. So it really depends. It really depends. But in general, if it is just about secularizing, then yeah, I agree. Gasian American gave us $5. Thank you, Gasian American, saying I'd get married at the temple to Hu Tianbao, the Chinese god of gays, just as a personal fu to the CCP. That's awesome.
That's great.
Can I come to your wedding? Okay. So let's go to another patron question. This time we'll take one from Mario Luis saying, what do you think about Elon Musk now buying 100 wait, now
It's
buying
not-
100% of Twitter? I don't think he has bought 100% of Twitter.
No.
What
I
are you
think a
talking
hostile.
about?
Okay, so Elon. Okay, so read the question and then we
Okay,
can
so what do you
clarify.
think about Elon Musk now buying 100% of Twitter and taking it private? For what it's worth, I tweeted at him to reinstate Atheist Republic once he buys all of it.
Well, thank you
Well,
for
thank you
doing
for
that.
the
I'm sure.
support.
Thank you for your service. Okay, so initially he bought like around 10%, like 9%, and short of just a little bit short of 10%, and then the understanding was that he's going to go on the board, and but if he goes on the board, they would limit him on how much more he could buy. Like you're just like, okay, 10%, you can't go anymore, right? But then eventually they told him, okay, no, he can't. He's not going to go on the board. But because he's not going to go on the board, that means that now he can buy more because there's no limitation to how much he can buy, right? And now I think the news was that, well, now he want to buy more and do a hostile takeover. Okay, so for you to
Oh
do
my
a
god.
hostile,
I'm buying your company.
no, but a hostile takeover does not require for you to get 100% of the company.
Yeah, yeah.
You should you just need enough of the percentage of the company where you have such a huge amount of influence in just selecting the board. That would be, or just you and your allies have enough control over the board for you to basically be able to be in charge, right? You don't need 100% of Twitter, right? So, but you will be technically in control, okay? So that's being talked about. I don't think it's been confirmed, okay? Also, Elon Musk himself is not sure if he can do that because as rich as he is, not all of what Elon Musk has is liquid, right? So I think a lot of people assume that if somebody's net worth is like this many billions of dollars, that means that they could just afford anything short, like that is less than that amount. Okay, that's not, that's not how it works. Like somebody having having a $10 billion net worth, that doesn't mean they have access to $10 billion cash, right? That's it. You can't just go on. They would need to. The process of liquidizing things is like very difficult. So the good thing about Elon Musk is that he just thinks out loud. So we know, like he himself is not sure if it's possible for him to do a hostile takeover, and he's asking, like, is this even possible, right? So he's asking. So we know that he's not even sure himself, right? But does that make sense? Does that answer the question?
Yeah, Mario is providing more context, saying he made an offer of 41 billion for 100% and threatened to dump all of his current stock if the deal is rejected. Damn.
Wait, that's not okay. Hold on. What is the entire market cap of Twitter? 41 billion. Total market cap. Somebody tell me. Nah, I'm just getting the stock value. Twitter is not being, and Google is not being helpful. Okay, I would assume it's more than 41 billion total. Okay. Also, what Elon says and what happens are two different things. I don't think like.
True.
I mean, Elon Musk has said a whole bunch of things that has never come true, right? Blizzard is 51 billion. No, Twitter is way more than worth market cap. The entire market cap of Twitter is way more than just 41 billion.
I get a real kick out of Elon Musk posting memes of himself smoking a joint, saying like, "Next Twitter board meeting is about to be lit."
Oh, okay. No, it's only 34 billion. Really? Okay, never mind. 34 billion. Okay, but I don't think Elon Musk has access to $41 billion in liquid assets. Okay, he himself admitted that it's not that simple. Okay, Elon Musk doesn't have like $41 billion just sitting in cash in his bank account. Okay, his assets are like hard assets. Okay, like these are stocks and other, so but yeah, okay, so either way, we're hoping that Twitter goes, because of all of this, becomes more of an open platform for more discussions and less censorship. And yeah, we're gonna take it, if it goes in that direction, we're gonna try to take advantage of that and bring back our Twitter account. So just to answer your question. Yeah, but what did you say, Susie? I think you said something funny. I didn't notice. Say that again?
I like how Elon Musk posts memes of himself about Twitter. Yeah. Like he posted a meme saying it was a picture of him smoking a joint on Joe Rogan, making this face. He was like, and it was like, next Twitter board meeting is about to be lit.
No, people. Oh yeah, I saw that. That was pretty. It's amazing that somebody with this level of, he just like, with this thought process has this much power. It's kind of also scary, you know what I mean? Like Elon Musk, I mean, it would be nice if Elon Musk like manages to make Twitter better, but this is not how things should become better. Things should become better because systems work, not because an individual just comes and like acts like a hero. You know what I mean? Like, because if it's this easy for Twitter is a major platform for discussions, okay? Like a lot of thought, opinions, shapes on Twitter globally. So for a billionaire to just be able to come and be like, you know what, I'm going to come and take over this and change it in the way I want, it might work in our favor this time, okay? But what if it's a like a right-leaning loon that is a billionaire and comes and takes over Twitter? You know what I mean? Like, I just want better systems, not better individuals. I don't want us to have to appeal to the goodness of a billionaire to come make things better. You know what I mean? I want us to have a society where we have better structure of how institutions work that makes, so anyway, if this is how things get better, so be it. I just wish that things become better in a different way.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
think, well, in terms of like, oh, what's worrying about his thought process, I mean, I can see why people think that about his like memes and stuff like that. I think it's actually very smart. Like, he is fully aware of his meme ability. He's fully aware of the like potential and power of memes. I think it's something he purposefully utilizes. The same way like Drake is one of the biggest hip hop artists in the world, and you can tell he purposefully uses meme culture to his advantage to help proliferate his brand everywhere. So I think it's actually very intentional. Well, parts of it are very intentional. Sometimes it's just him, dicking around on Twitter. Another question from Mario Luis: what is your reaction?
Wait, we got a super chat first. Super chat first. And
we got two super chats. No Name is saying, thank you for the 50 Swedish krona, saying, no question this time, just dropping an extra $5 for you guys as I log off. Appreciate you both. Tearing smiley face. Oh, well, thank you, No Name.
You.
And Gage American is saying, should we democratize corporate structure through laws?
No. Get your dirty laws out of private companies. Just have some laws so that corporations don't do harm to society, and then let them just do their own thing. Okay, just let them manage let them come up with the best way to make profit. Just limit the harm that they could do to society, and also stop them from creating monopolies, and after that just let them do whatever. But thank you for the super chat. You're muted.
Thank you for the super chat, Gage American.
Thank you.
So let's go to okay, I really want to answer this question. Mario is asking, what was your reaction to Apostate Prophet joining Matt Dillahunty's show, The Atheist Experience? I love it. I love to see Apostate Prophet getting more exposure. I love to see ex-Muslims in general getting more exposure, more visibility, particularly in the North American atheist community. I think it's very needed. And I love to see non-former Christian atheists on the Atheist Experience. That's one thing that I think the Atheist Experience could really improve on, is having a greater diversity of people from different faith backgrounds. And that's actually one of the reasons why I was attracted to Atheist Republic, is because I think we have way more variety. It just includes more people, more visibility to people of different backgrounds, can help address their specific experiences better. And I love to see Ridvan, getting a larger audience.
Yeah, well, I mean, Ridvan has an amazingly
huge audience,
large,
but even bigger.
But the more the merrier. Yeah, I completely agree to everything that Susanna said.
I wish they had more ex-Muslims on the Atheist Experience.
Yes. This ex-Muslim will never get invited. This ex-Muslim will never get invited on the Atheist Experience. They have crossed me out.
Yeah, that's for sure.
That's for sure.
Okay, so Donnie is asking, what do you guys think about people who claim to have a racial preference when dating? Do you think it's just racism described as preferences? I've personally met hot babes with a I don't know. This question made me laugh. I've met hot babes with a wide range of skin tones from different cultures and countries. So I personally don't consider race when dating. Well, good for you. We answered this question in depth around Valentine's Day recently. So I think if you look on our channel for like racial preference and dating or something, you should find us really digging into it. But I can just summarize it here. My position is that I don't think it's inherently racist to have a racial preference when dating. The way I think about it is most people, if not all people, probably have certain features in other people that they find the most attractive. And there will probably be a group of people who has a phenotype that is most likely to have or has the highest percentage of those features that you find attractive. So, therefore, you will probably find that group of people with that phenotype the most attractive, and that will be your preference. I don't think that's inherently wrong. I don't think that's inherently discriminatory, as long as it is not coming at the denigration of other people without those features, or the assumption about any lesser worth of any other people, particularly regarding any interpersonal qualities that they may have, not even just physical qualities, because people make all these claims about oh, this group of people is like this and they believe that and they treat other people like this, completely removing all those assumptions and stereotypes is very important. I don't think it should ever come at the denigration of other groups. But just having, I find these features the most attractive. They're most likely to have these features. I don't think that's a big deal. And most people around the world will marry or have partnership with someone from their own group. We're most likely to be attracted to people from our own group. There's like evolutionary psychological stuff behind this. It's just, and most people live in monoracial societies anyways.
That was a perfect answer. I don't know what to do. You just you answered everything. I don't know how to. Everything I want to say would just be a repetition of what you said.
Yeah. I think I definitely do want more people to not consider race when dating. Like, I don't consider race when dating, but there are certain ethnicities that I am most attracted to. But it's not like a imperative or a mandate when I'm dating. I think that's what's most important. Because then that's when it kind of comes into like, you're not with that person because you necessarily like them for their own quality. It's just like you objectify them for the features that they have. I don't think that's necessarily good.
Dean the live chat saying, I had jungle fever. What does that mean?
Okay. I don't know if I can say on YouTube.
Okay, I'm just gonna look it up.
I don't think I can say that I don't think I can explain that on YouTube.
Wait, there's a movie named after this. It can't be that bad if there's a movie after that. There's an entire movie called Jungle Fever. I don't know what this means.
I just I'm gonna move on. Yes. I will leave people to go look into that yourself. Okay. So Asian American is asking, what are your thoughts on John Oliver threatening to release the data of people in the Capitol Hill area in an effort to get Congress to pass legislation on data privacy? You actually watched John Oliver's show last week tonight. I don't, so I'm not familiar with this. Do you know what this question is about?
Yeah, well, I mean, this went viral. He basically used the data available through social media platforms that sell it to third-party companies. He used all that information to basically put some ads out, that if you click on, it's kind of very embarrassing. I mean, not embarrassing to me, but like they would probably find embarrassing. And based on their platform of based on the trail of the data that they left behind on their activities after clicking on those ads. He targeted this into Iran, Capitol Hill. So, assuming that there's more U.S. politicians there, so so here's how it works. So when you're on Facebook, you're on Twitter and stuff, y- your activity is being tracked, okay? And even though because of laws, they can't associate the activity they can't connect the activities that you have to your individually, like they can't say when they sell your information, they cannot say like this is Susie, this is Armin, right? But they give so much other information about you, like your age, the places you have been, the things that you're interested in, and everybody has figured out that there's enough information that even though Facebook and Google and Twitter, they don't sell your name to other people, the information is enough to be able to pinpoint who you are without actually having your name, right? And John Oliver is showing that by targeting some ads to Capitol Hill and getting a whole bunch of people, a whole bunch of politicians to click on it, and using these information that you can buy from social media platforms, pinpoint to exactly who they are, and they have pinpointed a lot of these people and their activities around the internet. And he's basically kind of blackmailing them. I don't know if that's actually maybe that's not the right term because that would be illegal, but he's like threatening them that if you don't get the laws that makes this violation of our privacy is possible, then I might expose who you are and what you have been doing and what kind of embarrassing things you have been clicking on. And technically, everything he's doing is legal because, I mean, every time you went on social media and when you used it, you agreed to your information being available. And, John Oliver is not doing anything illegal. He's just using the information that everybody who's using social media platform has agreed to give up. And by doing this, he's exposing to a whole bunch of other people how easy it is to track them down based on the information that they leave behind when they go online, right? And how very little politicians will do against it. So I think it's genius. I like it. I don't know if does that make sense? What I explained, does that make
Oh
sense?
yeah,
What I
yeah,
said?
yeah. You
Yeah.
explained what
Okay.
the background was very well. Thank you.
Okay, so just to go off a tangent, I kind of, you have to understand that if you could get rid of a lot of these information that social media companies share with third party, you know, data aggregators, a lot of their revenue model will tank. Like Facebook and Google, they and Apple, they very well, Apple has its own devices, so never mind. But they very much rely on this. They very, 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 very much rely on this. Um, and I would, like that's how you're getting all this free services, right? That's how you get YouTube for free. That's how you get Twitter for free. That's how you get Facebook free. So a lot of people complain about it, but they also have to realize that if they didn't have this revenue model, they wouldn't be able to get all these free services, right? But now that we have these free services, I don't mind this model working less because it opens the door for a new model where people own the platform. I hope so in the future, which is what people refer to as Web 3.0. Okay, so I'm hoping that works, and if if pushing against Facebook and Twitter and Google will open the door to this other alternative model and brings that about sooner, that's where my mind goes immediately. I like that. I welcome that.
Do you like his tactic? You don't think it's like potentially like doxing people?
Well, it is, but I mean, okay, so it's not doxing because doxing requires you giving up their address or something, not just their names, right? But the thing is that you're trying to avoid that. You're not doing that. You're trying to avoid more of that by making the politician. So right now, you could do this to anybody, including women who are like trying to stay safe from their abusers. Like people who, like, for example, women who have tried to run away from abusers, they managed to buy information for very little. I think like maybe like $50. You could buy enough information to be able to track exactly where they are, and what their name. So, and a lot of people want to remain private, and it's really hard, or it's really hard to be able to go on the internet. Oh, by the way, guys, use NordVPN. Link to it in the description. If you want to not be tracked by all these companies, it's actually not that hard actually to do that, and you could use NordVPN. Link in the to NordVPN is in the description. We get a bonus if you do use NordVPN, and that way you will be able to stay hidden. Okay, so try the link in the description. Okay, I don't know if it works. Anyways, but what was I saying? Oh yeah. But yeah, you might be you might say like you shouldn't do these for these politicians. Well, technically, you're trying to avoid this happening to a larger group of people. So I think morally, he's in the right.
Okay, interesting. I'm surprised he's allowed to like talk about that on YouTube, because YouTube has like very strict rules about like doxing and releasing private information. So,
well, technically, he's not doxing them, and he hasn't released the private information. I don't know. Yeah, actually, and also Susie, you know, what did he say? Sweet, sweet summer child. Like what? Like okay, I don't know. Like this is John Oliver. The rules for mainstream media on YouTube is
I
different
know.
from
I
ours.
was about to say we don't play by the same rules.
Yeah, no, we don't. Like they get to show things and say things that we don't get to do on YouTube.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not being naive.
Yes.
Next question is from Mario saying, did you know that in Greece there is a province called Athos that bans entrance to women? It is actually semi-autonomous and governed by the Greek Orthodox Church as a monastic state, and is one of the world's 2 Christian theocracies, the other one being the Vatican. What do you think that I, as a Greek, can do to help overturn it? It is hard to fight this because Athos's status as autonomous and church governed is guaranteed by the Greek constitution. Well, frankly, I don't know what you can do against this.
Seems like you can't do anything.
Yeah. Change your freaking constitution? Damn.
Seems like you have to. No, yeah. Like the way you're describing it seems like you're making it seem like
pretty set in stone.
Damn, that's horrible. Topple the government? Wait, no, we're not encouraging that, YouTube.
Yeah, no, YouTube. Know. We are not encouraging any illegal.
How do you? Okay, it depends. How does changing the constitution work in Greece? Like, I don't know. How does that work?
I have no idea.
It seems like very hard. Wait, so it's like how?
It's so tiny though. It's like I've looked into this. It's this tiny little area. It's basic. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's pretty much just like a single property.
What if you raise an army and invade it? Can you do that? An army of women. An army of women. Amazonian. Oh yeah, it's very fitting to Greece. It's very fitting to Greek mythology if you raise an army of an Amazonian woman to go invade it. By the way, it's called Athos, like named like is Athos have anything to do with Athens and Athena? Because if Athos is named after Athena, it's very hypocritical for a place in the province that is named after a female goddess, the best female goddess of all, to be fair.
True.
Right? The sexiest, most intelligent female goddess, even better, like I would have to say, between Athena and Kali, I pick Athena. I'm sorry, Kali.
Yeah.
Okay, like seriously, yeah, obviously. But seriously, if Athos is named after Athena and they don't allow any women in this area, that's like very hypocritical. What the hell? Yeah, no, you should start a campaign named after Athena. How about that?
They're saying that Athos has no relation to Athena, different Greek words. And Mario is also clarifying that apparently the European Union has sued Greece over this. And to change the constitution, you need 180
Oh,
I don't know much about Greek politics, but I do hear that it is messy. So
you got cut for a second. So you said to change the constitution, you need 180 out of 300 vote in the parliament. Okay, so you're right. Actually, okay. So given Greek needs to, yeah. So here's the thing: Poland has done some things that is not in line with EU's values, and Poland has been threatened to lose a whole bunch of money from this. And Greece needs a lot of money. They can't afford to be sued by the EU. Yeah, keep. Oh yeah. So keep doing going the EU route. Like keep filing petitions. Start petitions, bring this attention to the people, the heads of EU, and make this embarrassing. I think you should be okay. So changing the constitution in Greece doesn't seem to be as hard as in the United States, if that's all you need, right? I'm pretty sure the parliament most members of a parliament wouldn't want to come off as anti-woman or or also threatening Greece's position in the EU, or so that should be, yeah. There you go. There's your answer. Thank you, Mario. Give us the answer.
Oops. Horace Sultan is here. Hi, Horace. Saying you preferring Athena over Kali proves your Hindu phobia, Art. How dare you, sir?
Okay. To be fair, Athena, okay, was a strategic warlord. Okay, she's both a god of war and a god of wisdom, but she's a type of, what's the other god of war in Greek mythology? I forgot the other one. But the other god of war is like a chaotic god of war. Athena is like a very strategic, defensive god of war. Okay, and she can raise armies, and she's very, very strategic and smart. Okay, Kali just goes on a rampage and she can't stop. Right, when she attacks
until she steps on her husband.
Yeah, until she steps on her husband. Right, like one of them is very elegant. Okay, that's attractive. To be honest, that's very attractive in its own way. But Athena is very elegant, very calm. Okay, I'm not Hindu phobic because Hinduism also has, what is Kali an avatar of? What's the Durga. So Durga is more like, there you go. Durga is more like Athena than Kali. Okay, so Hinduism has its own version of Athena. Okay, but the whole elegant, calm, wisdom, not like calm as in submissive. Athena can
calculated,
she's a force to be reckoned with, right? But she's not like chaotic force. She's very organized and thoughtful force.
Yes, dialed in.
The
Roaring Man gave us a super chat. Thank you for the £5, saying congratulations on having your super chats back. Well, thank you for celebrating in the form of a super chat.
Thank you.
And people are talking about, some Egyptian goddesses and different goddesses. Well, we actually have some Egyptian goddess art coming up soon, so make sure to join our Patreon. So link in the description below to see the uncensored version of our Egyptian goddess blasphemous sexy art. So let's go to the next question. Okay, so the rest of our questions are all from Mario, except for some by Oxymoron. So let's dive into this Oxymoron question. He had some comments about, so you two have been going back and forth talking about colorism or explicit denigration of different skin tones in Hindu scripture. And he had a lot of comments about what you previously said about it, but it's not really in the form of a question. So you might want to look into what he said, because it's something that would require more research. But then he had another kind of question or statement about this. So the context of this is that in the Indian state of Karnataka recently, I always say it wrong. Is it Karnataka? Anyways, there was a festival that is, in many ways often celebrated by even Christians and Muslims in the area, but the festival had, shopkeepers outside this festival and for this Hindu holy day. And Muslim shopkeepers were banned from trading at this market because of pressure from Hindutva groups. The organizers explicitly said that they were going to allow it, Like people paid their rent to be able to participate in it, and then they had to backtrack and then just not allow Muslims to participate simply because they were worried about Hindufa basically enacting violence upon the festival. And in other places around the country, that ended up happening anyways. You know, just a really great group of people, these Hindufa gangs. So that's the larger context. So this is Oxymoron's question. Festival and temples are collective social constructs designed to nurture religion and its follower base. The temple isn't a secular place. Festivals aren't secular events. Karnataka happens to be the first state to free Hindu temples from the clutches of government and prevent any further butchery of Hinduism. But even if it was under the government, why should Hindus not letting Muslims participate in Hindu fairs and Hindu premises be unconstitutional?
Well, because it's a public place. Well, that wasn't it happening in a public place, or was it happening inside a temple?
It was not inside the temple. I don't know how much it happens in front of and around the temple. I don't know how much of that is considered. I don't know how much of that area is considered temple grounds.
You know, so for example, do you think like Muslims in India could have like a for the month of Ramadan, just have a festival in public places of India where Hindus are not allowed to go anymore? Like, do you think that would be okay? Like, for example, can they close off like I'm not talking about inside the mosque. I'm talking about roads, parks, street corners, like everything, and be like, this area, we're gonna take this at certain days, and if you're not a Muslim, you cannot enter these areas. You can, like, we're gonna have festivals, and if you're a Hindu coming and selling, like, I don't know, sweets or whatever for like, so for example, say like Muslims want to break their fast, and you have a Hindu kid trying to come and sell candies to Muslims who want to break their fast with like a date, or they like say we have a Hindu kid going around and selling dates, okay, to Muslims who want to break their fast. Like, can we say like, because this is an Islamic festival, are Muslims allowed to close off this area and be like, no Hindus allowed? Do you think that would be okay? I'm hoping you would say no. Like, I understand, like, if it's inside a mosque, I understand, like, maybe you could say, well, this is a private mosque, this is our mosque, and I mean, unless it's government funded. If it's government funded, you should be able to allow everyone in, right? I don't think you could tell, you know. But if it's a private mosque, I understand why they could say like only Muslims are allowed inside this mosque. Okay, I can tolerate that. Okay, or if it's a Hindu temple, I mean, I'm still not okay with that. Okay, but I'm more okay with that. Okay, if it's a Hindu temple and like you have to be Hindu to come into this temple, yeah, it's still discrimination.
What they do is they don't even let Dalits enter.
Yeah, that's not cool. That's not okay. That should be illegal. Okay, but one step at a time. Like I'm saying, like for example, if it's a Hindu temple, if it says like we don't allow Hindus in, I think that's a lower level of discrimination. So if it's a Hindu temple and they say we don't let non-Hindus in, that's one level of discrimination that I'm not okay with. But it should be illegal for them to say we don't let Dalits in. That should be illegal, right? We could deal with other levels of discrimination for like later. But if it's a public place, you can't just be like, oh, it's a religious festival, and you're not allowed here. Okay, like that's insane. That's insane. You know, I mean, if that's the case, we're just going to come and announce, like, you know, why can't the Muslims just like announce festivals in different corners all the time and just be like Hindus are not allowed here? Like it's a public area. You can't be like, oh, your question is like, oh, a festival is not by its very nature secular. Well, if the temple, I get it, but festival, if it's happening in a place where everybody has if it's a public place and people, it's the roads and a place that everybody should be able to have access to at all times, you cannot declare that Hindu land just because of your made up Hinduism, made up rules of what is yeah. Actually, Harris has a point. Harris is saying no, the ban is for Muslims selling stuff around the temple. There's no such ban on Hindus around mosques. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. I'm saying like this oxymoron guy on Patreon is asking us, why do we have a problem with that? Because we have a problem with that. We're saying that they can't come and tell Muslims that they cannot sell stuff around the temple, and he is saying that they should be able to ban Muslims selling stuff around the temple, because this is like a temple is not supposed to be secular, right? I'm saying the inside the temple maybe is not secular, but around the temple is a public area. They cannot enforce the rules around the temple unless it's on temple grounds, right? If it's in a public, if it's in a road that is supposed to be able to people have access to, everybody has access to, they cannot come and enforce the rules on the goddamn streets and be like, oh, uh, this is a secular country. And I'm just saying, like, the same person that is telling us that we should tolerate the ban on Muslims selling stuff around the temple, I don't think this person would endorse just banning Hindu shops outside of a mosque. Like, this is your mosque, you own your mosque, you don't own all the neighborhood surrounding the mosque, you don't own the streets. You cannot say let's ban Hindu selling. So wouldn't that be a little bit hypocritical if you support banning of Muslims selling stuff around the temple, but you wouldn't be supporting banning Hindus selling stuff around the mosque? Or would you be banning both? Because if you do, that would be ridiculous. Wait, the oxymoron is in the live chat. You're saying it was a Hindu fair. Okay, if it was a Hindu fair, what if it was a Muslim fair? Can Muslims all of a sudden have fairs all around India and be like, Hindus are not allowed to sell anything, even though it's a public area outside of a mosque? Would you allow Muslims to do that? Would you think that should be do you think that should be legal in a secular country like India? Let me see if anybody has any comments on this. Doesn't happen every Friday. Yeah, so for example, I'm against Friday prayers. That's a good example. I'm consistent on this, right? So for example, Muslims closing off a whole bunch of streets outside of the mosque for Friday prayers, that should be illegal. You don't own the streets around the mosque, you own the mosque. You cannot just, like, that's where other people are supposed to drive and walk through. Like, closing a whole bunch of streets outside, like, so just like I'm against Hindutva closing off areas where Muslims cannot go, I'm also against Muslims closing off private areas where Hindus cannot go. I'm against both. I'm very consistent in this. Let me see if anybody disagrees with me in this. Okay, Susanna is black.
There was kind of a follow-up to his question saying, not that I am pro boycotts, it's not a nice move, but I don't necessarily see why it's not the right of a community to impose such. If Muslim wishes to benefit from events, why not make the calculated choice to become a Hindu? It's as simple as calculation as that. This tendency is observed in many collective constructs, not like, say, the US threatening countries like India for not going by its playbook on the Russia conflict. Okay, to be honest, I don't see how that's comparable. What's more comparable is, the rest of the question cut off. Let me find the rest of it. Damn.
No, let me just address it. I don't think we need the okay, so the first part of the question, so you're saying I don't see why it's not the right, because you don't own the streets. The streets is owned by the public. You own the temple. You could be like, these people, you own the temple. You don't own public spaces. This is a secular country. You cannot decide that it's against the laws of the country to say this part of the public area, certain people with certain religions cannot move into or do sell or have, or do sell their whatever they want to sell. Like, you can't do that. How do you not see why they don't have that right?
You're too far away from the mic. We can't hear you.
I say, how do you not see that why you don't have that right? This is a public area. Your religion has no authority over public streets. Oh, some is saying it's. Go on.
I don't understand this mentality, frankly, at all. I want to live, and I have a deep desire for living in a very pluralistic society. I think it is amazing. I think there are so many benefits to it. And this, like, well, why don't they just become a Hindu? Like, that just reeks of majoritarianism. I love the protection of minorities. I think it is the hallmark of and one of the ways where you can best tell the quality of a society. I love living in a multicultural society. I find it fascinating. I find it beautiful. And I think this is maybe something that I just inherently experience differently than other people because I have always grown up in a society like this. Like, and I didn't even grow up in a city that was the most diverse. And I've moved to a city that is more diverse. And I love it. There are so many benefits to it. And I think maybe it's just so difficult for me to understand. Like, most of the world lives in monoracial societies. And that experience is so different. And I think when I think about it that way, like, xenophobic attitudes make a lot more sense because to me it is like so incomprehensible because I'm used to being surrounded by people who are extremely different from me and having it be like such a wonderful benefit to my life, and it enriches my experience so much that I really cannot understand people who just want like assimilation like this, that want people to be forced into assimilation, not because of they actually having an attraction or a felt inclination towards that culture, but because they're forced to be able to feed their family. Like, what? Like, people have had to make that calculation for centuries, and we do it for our own survival, but I don't necessarily think that's a good thing. It shouldn't be encouraged. I really don't understand it. I really don't understand it fundamentally.
All right, so a few comments. Oxymoron saying from the parking area to everything is owned by the temples. Okay, the areas that they own, okay, they have the right to close it off to certain people. I don't know. I mean, unless they have anti-discrimination laws in India like they have in United States, right?
Well, it is part of their constitution.
Is it? Like, no, like for
I don't know how it applies to the intersection of private property, but it is in their constitution.
Right. So I don't know how that works in India when it comes to private property, but even if they have the right to do that, then we could just claim that it's immoral. Like, I mean, like you agree, like you say, it's not nice. Like, so yeah, if they stop them from the surrounding area of the temple from selling stuff from the surrounding area of the temple, that's illegal. They don't have the right. But if it's in temple properties, then they have the right. But that's, like you agreed, it's not very nice. Like, why wouldn't you want people like come, like, you have Muslims who are selling stuff to Hindus for their festival? Like, isn't that like a beautiful recognition of like Muslims coming out and like being like, hey, Hindus, like, you're partying, we notice you're partying,
like supporting their community.
We're gonna buy our stuff for your festival.
No, they're taking money and economic benefit from other Hindus. Like,
this brings communities this brings people together.
Exactly.
This is fantastic.
I've read in multiple places that Muslims and Christians even participate in this festival to go pay homage to that deity for good luck. Like, what? Historically, like, this division is so ahistoric, and we're going to be talking a little bit more about some of these boycotts that have been going on the news this week. And I'm going to talk about how creating this firm division is historic to India's history and identity. Like, it really drives me crazy. There's so much interchange of religion and who participates in what in exchange than people are even acknowledging. And what's different, Oxymoron, is that in this case, like, this wasn't something that was just this way from the outset. They only did this, and the organizers are very clear that they only did this to avoid violence from right-wing gangs. There's a huge difference here. This isn't this community just like, you know what, this is how we're going to conduct ourselves. You know, this is on our own property, whatever. This is our standing policy that we've had. No, they were pressured and forced into this, but the threat of violence. That's a huge problem. That's something seriously wrong with that. What's going on in that area. I mean, let alone what gives rise to that attitudes, you know, and the people thinking that that's okay and normalized culturally, but also just how worrying that is in terms of the legitimacy of rule of law.
Right. Harris, read some stuff that Harris is saying.
Horace is saying that's why they hate the word secular and call it secular. Yeah, that's
Wow,
the
so
most.
clever.
I know. Oh my god, I haven't heard that one before. It's so dumb.
Why?
And then Hara Sultana is saying, why don't they become Hindus? Because belief is not a matter of policy.
Yeah.
Very good point.
Okay. That's a good answer.
So let's go to the next patron question. So here is one from Mario Luis. I know that's not how it's spelled, but that's how I pronounce it now. Do you think there is a problem with how Western sources portray Islam in regards to Sunni Islam being depicted as default and mostly ignoring Shia Islam?
I mean, they are the majority.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very interesting to me because I grew up thinking Shia Islam was the default. Like that has felt like I thought Shia Islam was the default and Sunni Islam was those other Muslims. But then but then I realized like, oh my god, the whole world sees it the other way around. So it was amazing. I mean, technically, it's accurate that the default Islam is Sunni Islam, and Shias were like an offshoot, weren't they? Isn't it? Isn't that how it is? Historically, that's how it has been.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Yeah. Both
I don't know.
both in terms of numbers and in terms of historically, we had like the Umayyad dynasty, and then we had the Abbasid dynasty, and the Shias weren't even like a different religion; they were just a different political movement
Mm-hmm.
that eventually turned into a religion after, like when we had the Fatimiyun in Egypt as a Shia, and then after that we didn't have any serious Shia government for a while until the Safavid Empire came about, right? So yeah, I think like the Western sources are portraying it maybe somewhat correctly. Yeah, if they're doing it, or so I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, it kind of makes sense because in many ways, Sunni Islam is more consistent. There's like so
ouch.
There's like so many shirky things. Like, let's be honest. Like when people are like, "Oh, the Shias in the shirk," like they got a point. So I think that has part of it as well.
You just lost all your Shia cred.
I mean, I personally find it more interesting, but I do think, yeah, there like straight up there is a lot of deviation in Shia Islam, like the whole construction of like marjas and emulation. It's like, oh, huh? Okay. Next question is again from Mario saying, how do you think the US midterms will turn out? Republicans will probably win big, but what do you also think will happen if they do so? Do you think that means Trump runs in 2024? Well, I'm pretty sure he's already said that he's going to run, which I am bracing myself for, and it's going to be a nightmare. Besides that, I am extremely ignorant about my own domestic politics because I find other countries' politics more interesting. So
I don't think the world is ready for all this. Imagine this scenario. Imagine Marine Le Pen wins in France and Republicans win in the upcoming election and Trump becomes president in 2024. I think the world will break. I think that would be it.
Oh my god, it's stressful just to think about. Like if that happens, like our world order is doomed. It's over. Pack it up, guys. Go home. It's over.
Just give up. Yeah. Well, I mean, so I don't know. These are hard predictions to make. Like it seems like everybody is predicting that the Republicans are going to do very well. It seems like that's what the prediction is. Honestly, I think right now, if you hold, like, even if the Republicans don't come back in strong, if you hold the presidential elections right now, today, everything shows that Trump will take it. Okay, but the problem is that 2024 is a long time from now, and we have seen how dramatically things can change, right? So you can't make predictions like this. We know that the chances of Trump winning today, if the elections were today, are very, 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 very high. Okay. But just like Trump was unpredictable, like when Trump came, like the chances of Trump winning the first time was very low, but it happened, right? So it's, and 2 years is a long time. So it's almost impossible to come up with predictions like this. Oh,
Yeah.
Harris Sultan is saying Harris, we talked about this. Harris is asking thoughts on Imran Khan being ousted as prime minister. We had a couple of discussions about this. I think it was on secular jihadists. I gave all my thoughts on this, but I was going to reach out to you and wonder if you would be interested in coming over and having a discussion about the ousting. And I have a lot of questions that I would like to ask you. I was wondering if you would be interested in coming over and we could have a talk. um, I was going to reach out to you, but I just don't know how to reach out to Harris Sultan because he's not on Facebook. We he's on Twitter. We're not on Twitter. So
Secular
how?
Jihadist still has Twitter.
Oh yeah. How do you reach out to Harris Sultan? Do you have like his email? Because I was gonna reach. I just
I have
realized I
Harris
have
on
no.
WhatsApp.
Okay, but I don't. Okay, so I don't go on WhatsApp. So I just realized I have no way to contact Harris Sultan, which is like I need to fix this problem. This is a huge problem. When I want to talk to Harris Sultan, I have no outlet. How do I do this? Can you like figure like I can like can you like give me some like is he on Telegram or something? I'm on Telegram. Do you have his
Well,
email?
I will be your negotiator. Okay.
Yeah, like I have to go through you to be able to talk to Harris.
Yes.
Oh,
And you will
damn.
pay a price. I'm
Okay, but
taking a tax.
can we Harris? Would you come on secular jihadists to talk about Pakistan? Would you be?
He
Oh
said,
yeah, definitely.
absolutely.
Fantastic.
Yay!
This is
Let's get that
great.
set up.
Okay, let's do it. Susie, would
I'm
you join
excited.
us?
Depends on my schedule, but
Okay,
I
cool.
won't say no. But I'm also not
Okay,
promising yes. But that would
okay,
be
good,
fun.
good. That would be fun. Oh,
Okay.
he's on
So
Telegram. Okay, okay.
Mario specifically requested that this be the final question. Do you think there are any good online figures on the political right that you recommend people to watch? You don't have to agree with them on anything, just think that their content is worth watching. Um, well, personally, I like to watch the Habibi Power Hour with Siraj Hashmi and Mujahid Kobi. One, because Mujahid is a friend of mine and he's freaking hilarious. They're so irreverent. And they're not even necessarily right, but they're more right leaning than me. I disagree with them on a lot of things, but they're so funny and they bring up issues that I wouldn't have really thought about in my kind of more lefty bubble. So I like that. And I mean, if you just want to also hear a lot about eating ass in the middle of your, more right leaning commentary, that's also good. Which is important. It's important. It's part of a well balanced breakfast.
Important.
It's very
Yes.
important, and a lot of Islamic jokes too. Just hilarious guys. Love those guys, and I was a guest on that show. Anyways, I think. Well, Armin and I watch a lot of like a wide content diet to help get a lot of these different perspectives. So we watch Ben Shapiro. I think that is more. I obviously don't agree with him on pretty much anything, but I like his presentation. It's very structured, and he does give me perspective into those like narratives. And then there's like a bunch of like Trumper, like hardcore Trumper Republicans that you could watch or look at, but I find their content almost unwatchable, and they don't make good claims, and they don't have really good explanations or rationale behind those claims. So I don't really find it worthwhile to watch any of that kind of content. What do you think, Armin?
Actual Justice Warrior.
Mm-hmm. What do you like about his content? He actually does try to really back up his claims, so that's good.
Yeah, that's what I like about him. I don't agree with him, but relative, it's hard to find honest or well-backed right-leaning content creators. But if we have to pick the best one, I think the actual Justice Warrior would be the best one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of anyone else.
From the left, I think Destiny is the best. From the right, I think Actual Justice Warrior is the best.
Wow, what a drop off.
Yeah.
Like, no offense, like the disparity between Destiny and Actual Justice Warrior.
Yes.
Holy crap. Like,
Yeah.
if AJW is the best and then it's Destiny, oof.
Yeah. That's a good point, actually. I do now listen to a lot of what I consider right-leaning people politically on the well, not a lot, like that people who don't know, like Persian and the and Persian YouTube. I listen to people who I consider not, would, if you could translate their views to English, you would consider them not just right-leaning but alt-right, like far right.
No, like fascist.
Like fascist right. Yeah. Yeah, and we have fascist left and we have fascist right, but these would be like fascist right. So that's what I listen to that in Persian, because for people who don't know, our Persian show is like doing a lot better. So I'm trying to get better and doing Persian shows. In the next month, I'm going to be a lot more active on the Persian Atheist Republic's Persian channel. So yeah, I'm consuming a lot of content in Persian recently.
Give Armin a round of applause for his growing influence in the Persian-speaking atheist community.
I'm fighting fascists I'm fighting fascists in Persian. I'm fighting pro-Islamic Republic fascist in Persian. I'm fighting monarchist fascist in Persian.
And that's where the real heat gets going. That's where the real heat gets going.
Yes, I'm on an anti-fascist agenda on the Persian side.
Based. So that was the end of our patron questions. If you would like to get your questions answered first, consider becoming a patron on our Patreon. Link in the description below. You also get access to our sexy blasphemous art, and you support our work in general, because we have a whole team. We have multiple languages that we, facilitate a lot of stuff, a big community, and everything you contribute helps.
We have a few
speaking of contributions, gave us $2 saying "Viva la Repubblica Athea" with our Atheist Republic emojis. Thank you.
Yes, we're sorry for missing that super chat. We also have another missed super chat by Asian American.
Asian American is saying, "Thank you for this for $2. Democracy has failed. Shia Confucianism is the future." Once again, I will adopt this unquestioningly.
Yeah, that's good. Do we have time for a few live chat questions that we start, or no?
Well, I need to drop off soon, but you can continue. But there is one live chat question that I wanted to be there to answer. So Nihilist Antinatalist is asking, thoughts on 24/7 BDSM couples. Isn't it too far that they have dedicated their whole life to it? I don't necessarily think so. I think it's something that definitely requires a lot of commitment. It requires a lot of energy. It requires a lot of attention. But for some people, that's something that they find really rewarding. They really enjoy the structure to it. And as long as it's not coming at the detriment to anyone's quality of life or their ability to sustain their own well-being, I don't think there's anything wrong with it, as long as it also comes with like frequent checkups outside of that dynamic. So I've talked to people who are in 24/7 BDSM dynamics, and what they do is a minimum of once a year. They have like a contract, and it's not legally binding in any way. It's a contract in terms of like, we outline these terms now, we write it down, we mark our boundaries now, and then at least once a year outside of our dynamic. So you don't have to be within this mode of deferring your own will to someone else. Okay, so you are in full control outside of this dynamic. That's when you revisit the contract and you can renegotiate. And
how does that work? 24/7 BDSM. Like, I don't understand what does it even mean. How could you even accomplish that?
like 24/7 they are within their roles as submissive or dominant or whatever it might be.
That sounds exhausting. But if
Yeah,
it's for them, I mean, okay. So here's the thing.
it
I think
requires
the
a
answer.
lot of energy.
I think Susanna's suggestion seemed really good if somebody's doing that, but I think the answer to this question is it depends. It could be a horrible idea, and it could be the best idea, depending on the couple. It could be a couple that is going through this, and it's not the best thing for them, and they're suffering because of it. But it could have been a dream come true for a couple, and they are just. I think you should. I think there's no right or wrong answer to these things. I think like if there's a couple that are just having the best time of their having their best life because of doing this, then obviously the answer to that is for them is yes. Why not, right? So I think
Yeah.
like it's better for, I think, okay, so as a utilitarian, I suggest to my suggestion to people is like not come up with general answers to questions like this. Like there's no like, is this a good thing or is this a bad thing? Well, like depends. The answer is it depends on the consequences on the couple that you're talking
Yeah.
about, right? So yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I don't necessarily think that it is too far to have someone dedicate it's not their life, it's like their lifestyle. I think of it as a lifestyle. So, and it means different things to different people. Like Asian American is saying, "Oh, that means you dress as someone's dog or servant like all the time." That's not necessarily the case. Like your dominant or top might have certain rules about how you dress, and you have to dress as they like or present how you like, if that's one thing that you guys have agreed upon. But that's not necessarily the case. In
Right.
what I've seen, it's mostly about the behavior towards each other. So people think of it as like, oh my God, 24/7, you're just being like hit with a flogger. Like, no, it's not like that. It's like, or, you're like 24/7 in a GIMP mask. Like, no, it's what I have seen. It's more oriented towards the way in which you interact with each other. So, like acknowledgement of like, okay, you are always going to refer to me as sir in these contexts. Like they can't, in public we might adjust things a little bit differently, but you will always have a certain reverence towards the way that you act towards me, or you will always have a more service oriented role in the way you treat me around our household. It's not always about, it's actually mostly not about sex acts. It's more about the behavioral dynamics and interactions, and how you enact and display the respect or deference that you have for your partner. Did that make sense? And I know I'm explaining it from the side of a submissive, but
no, but okay, that's very interesting. I wish we had more questions, guys. Next, if you are interested, send us more questions like that, because I'm learning.
we like
a
to
lot.
talk
I think,
about
like,
BDSM.
yeah, we do, and I think like it's fascinating and it's interesting, and it also helps because one thing we like to do here is like break taboos, and I think like not many people talk about these topics in a way that is like serious and educational. And I think like if we could provide that a little bit of that here, that would be nice, especially with the so yeah, I mean so yeah, if our patrons could send us some questions, if they have any questions regarding these, we would be interested in like going doing some. I would be, I don't know if I'm speaking for on behalf of everybody, but I would be interested in hearing more about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I've
Oh,
seen
Harris
one person online who has a 24/7 dynamic, and one of the ways in which they sustain it is that she like works from home and works online virtually, and her dom has like structured her entire life. So maybe some people are able to have their partner completely provide for them, or maybe they have other ways to provide for themselves or contribute financially to the household, but still fit it within this lifestyle that they've wanted to construct for themselves. And it is something that is frequently renegotiated in between these partners, or should be. And Hara Sultan is saying, isn't Catwoman a 24/7 dominatrix in her leather outfit? Well, I hope not, because that is not good for your skin, and it is not good for your leather outfit either.
Okay, this is the last one. This and then we'll go.
Asian American is saying, should dictators go get BDSM therapy given their need to control people? I don't know what BDSM therapy is.
Sounds good though.
What would you imagine that to be? Do you think it would be them getting put in their place as a sub because they feel the need to control other people, or would it be an outlet for them to enact their
Be a
authority,
dumb.
control, and sadism on maybe someone or some people in particular?
I don't know. We need to talk to an expert. I've heard a lot of people who act. I heard a lot of people who act dumb outside of the bedroom are subs inside the bedroom. So I don't know if that is
Exactly.
true. Is that true? Okay, so maybe what
I
they
don't know.
need
I
is
mean,
to be
that's a stereotype, definitely, that it's the most powerful CEO that wants to get reamed by a dominatrix. That's
okay, okay.
definitely a thing.
Yes. Yeah, so I would appeal to the experts what kind of therapy they need, but like sure, why not? If it works.
Yeah, but then there's also like very dominant people who are just like, no, I'm just dominant.
I'm just I just done. Does it work the other way around? People who are sub like act like sub in real life are really dumb and
I
well,
think
I
it
don't know
really
if this
depends
is a
if
stereotype. It's not statistically. We don't know
yeah.
if this is even true. But yeah, go on.
And also like that's also something that is used to like harm submissives is this idea that like just because you like this in a certain setting, particularly maybe like the bedroom, that you should always be like submissive outside of in other ways. And
Oh,
it's like used to really like police and control submissives in a way that I don't think is good. And also like incorrectly stereotype them. Um,
mm,
and I think it's particularly difficult for women in this scene because the way that they should act, or people believe that what they're into based on the way that they act, can lead to a lot of stereotypes and also like presumptions and um, demands that aren't good.
right. All right. I think that was good. So let's end it here. Thank you, everybody. Again, make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you share the video if it's safe. If you can afford it, support us financially. Link it just by $1 a month. You could become a patron. You get access to patron only questions and you get access to our blasphemous art. Subscribe to our newsletter. Link in the description so that we could reach you no matter where we get banned from. And yeah, and also most importantly, do not support us financially if you're struggling financially. Stay away from that. Do not even hit on any of the donation buttons if you are even slightly struggling. Instead, hit the like button. That would be support enough. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
And
And yeah,
make sure to tune into the news this week. We
there
have
we
the
go.
news show in 2 days. It is juicy this week. Lots of India related news this week. There's a lot going on. There's a lot to cover. So make sure to tune in.
Okay, okay. Yeah, and guys, to be able to not miss our streams, hit the notification bell because the subscribe button, if you hit the subscribe button, it's not going to tell you when we are live. You have to hit the bell icon, the notification icon, and then when you hit the bell icon next to the subscribe button, select all. Okay? That way YouTube will actually tell you when we are going live, okay? So thank you for that. All right, guys. Bye.
Bye.